After a 2-year absence, the mighty Iron Maiden are back with a new lineup, a new album produced by infamous Six-member Martin Birch, and a new video.
Yeah, Steve rang me up and said, what do you think about the idea of recording here with a mobile? He said, because we all feel as though it's good. So I came over and it seemed to make sense. Everybody felt so comfortable playing in the room. So we did it.
And that's really always the sort of sound we try to get on studio albums, is a live sound, and I think we've achieved a lot, better results this time around.
I think a lot of that was to do with being happy playing actually in the room. There were just a couple of minor problems, but they weren't really problems of just pure separation. But we put the drums in the room, the main room, and put the guitars outside and the bass outside, so that there was no leakage. But I mean, apart from that, you can, it was good, no problems at all.
Well, obviously the fact that Janick joined made a big difference as far as like the lead guitar playing. Adrian, when he first joined the band, he was used to actually being a singer frontman sort of thing, playing more rhythm and harmony guitars. And that's one of the reasons we got him in the first place, because he knew he was a good songwriter and also could do backing vocals and was really good for harmony guitars. But we wanted to sort of actually get him more into lead playing, so he sort of grew into that more over the period of time. It was something he sort of worked on. He wasn't really a natural lead player when he first joined. As soon as you just finish an album, you can't be totally objective about it, because you need to sort of play the songs live, see how they stand up live. Also, you need to really spend a bit of time sort of listening to it like over a period of time, and then going back to it and then judging it with all the other albums. When you just finished it, you always think it's the best thing you've ever done because you just finished it and you're excited about it.
Maiden have always been a European band. We're from England, and obviously we tour England out of all proportion to its record sales, and always have done, and unashamedly so, because we're English and we want to stay, big and popular in our homeland, as it were. We've never had any desire to go off and live in God knows where in America and do that thing over there. Our attitude has always been, if America comes, then great. If it goes away again and we don't sell another record in America, we don't care. America is a bonus for us. Our roots are in England and Europe, and that's where we belong. When we go to America, we're a European rock band playing America. And if they choose not to understand, that's their loss. And I think there's a strong possibility we might do another double live album. I think we've got the material now that we would want to put on it. And what with Seventh Son and this last album, and maybe something else in the future, I think we've got enough to do another one. Not this tour though, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps next tour after, maybe in the future or something, but I think there'll definitely be something live from Maiden in the next few years.
Sometimes the song's real essence has not been quite right, and so live it's really where we really come alive ourselves more. So for me,
I think a lot of bands like to be in the studio, but this is a live band, and that's where the whole thing comes alive on stage. And a lot of bands would rather spend 6 months in the studio. This band wants to go out and play, and I think that's what they missed over the last 2 years.
Well, obviously, having Young in the band has made hell of a difference. I mean, any punters that have been along so far noticed that. But purely, playing-wise, I mean, it's like full pronged attack with 2 guitarists now, real, right in your face guitar playing, and it's really, really exciting. I mean, and the amount that it's brought Davey out as well into sort of just being more into it and sort of feeding off Janick, it's made a hell of a difference. And I'm sure most of the punters agree with that,
It's put a supercharge in us. I think we were always a finely tuned 8-cylinder, seriously fast engine, but he's kind of put a real supercharged kick to us.
We've always placed emphasis on touring because, we always write our songs with a view to playing them live. We've always been mainly live bands, so that's where we feel, our best. Studios all very well, but, when we get out and play the punters. I would say we're very motivated still. Well, I don't know if you can say because we were 10 years ago, because at that time we were sort of going out doing 45-minute sets, and we had the world to sort of beat, if you like, and just try and actually get through to people who didn't really care about us. It was a bit different when you're going out headlining and punters actually coming to see you, and they know a bit more what to expect rather than when you're supporting. But we're still really hungry. We wouldn't do it if we weren't. I never really thought that we would, you know, end up playing all over the world. I mean, we didn't really sort of think that far ahead really at that time. We just wanted to play clubs, get on, you know, try and get a deal and hopefully get on a support tour, you know. We didn't really sort of think too far ahead at that time. You know, we were sort of just more concerned just getting up and playing wherever it was. You know. There's not really, you know, any ambitions I feel that I want to achieve really, other than just carry on playing until we, you know, as long as we can. I mean, I didn't have any real big sort of ambitions in the first place really, other than just playing on stage, and we're still doing it. And as long as we're still doing it a few more years' time, it's fine by me.
Coming out on this tour again, it's all like new. It feels new again. It's really exciting. It's like sometimes feel like little kids, you know. You can go out there and have and enjoy yourself. And I think we've got a few more years to go yet, really, you know.
Now, you probably all know the popular catchphrase for this programme is, of course, "We please your mother like no other," and that's snappy and punchy, but not quite as controversial as the title of Iron Maiden's current #1 hit, "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter."
Bring your daughter to the slaughter. Let go.
Please welcome Iron Maiden's main man, Bruce Dickinson. We just saw a clip from the ideologically sound video that you have for your #1 single at the moment, which I know, and there was something of a fuss.
Yeah,
just
one of the very few people that has seen it, actually.
Has it not been so much?
Not really. Well, they showed 1 minute 10 seconds of it or something, which the song is about 3.5 minutes long. So you'd think that they could show a bit more of it. But there's some black and white bits from an old Hammer horror movie we put in there. Showing a woman being sort of like taken to the slaughter, you know, and all the rest of it, you know. But the BBC, you know, thought that it was obviously, you know, too much cowabunga going on for the, you know, for the viewers on Top of the Pops. So they decided to edit it themselves, and then everybody else on telly did a sort of knee-jerk reaction and sort of went, you know.
So they'd cut that out. But we showed it, didn't we?
Did you? I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, we just showed it. That's because we never bother looking at things first. You see, that's the problem. In future, we will be cutting out.
Yes. Open your mailbag. Yes.
But you're not. You enjoyed that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
But you're #1, despite the fact that, if I'm correct, that this is the story, that it was not put on the Radio 1 playlist. It was not on the kind of rotation of singles.
Well, I think beyond that, I don't think it's even. Exist in their universe. I mean, I think they were probably choking on their briar pipes when it came out. I mean, the thing with Radio 1 that we've always felt is that it's a complete anomaly having what was supposed to be a pop/rock radio station in this country, which replaced years ago all the pirate radio stations, which were playing all the stuff that the youth of today wanted to hear, and then along came Radio 1. And then we had all the like great British rock bands and a big explosion of music from the Beatles right the way through, and we exported it to the rest of the world. And everybody said British music is great, and Britain is where it's at. It's really creative, And now what we're left with is, you know, Stock Aitken and Waterman, God rest their souls. But I mean, it's not. You know, it's not the stuff.
It's very dance-orientated now, isn't it?
Well, it's not the stuff of which legends are made of, really, is it? I mean,
but I wonder, but if you reach #1 despite not receiving hardly any praise, then is it actually that important? Why get bothered about that?
Because I think there's a principle involved, because it's not just us. I mean, we're lucky, because in the sense at the moment we're top of the pile, and we've been doing it for 10 years, and we've got a big fan base, and yes, they do help to put the records up there. Yeah. And now there's a big kerfuffle because we made #1. But we've had top 10 singles for the last 10 years, and it's only now we've made #1 that it's actually focused all the attention on it. And people are starting to throw up their hands in horror and go, oh my gosh, and they didn't get any airplay. We haven't had any airplay for 10 years, basically. And there are other bands coming up which want to go on and, you know, get out in the world and expand, but in their own homeland they're treated like, you know, second-class citizens by the radio stations, shunted away into like 2 hours on a Friday night with the Friday Rock Show on BBC. Yeah. And there is no alternative. I mean, you get this like Auntie Beeb attitude.
It does seem strange though, because it seems, although, I mean, I thought that heavy rock was going to die out. It did seem like it was on its last legs a few years ago.
Some journalists rather hoped it would do, you know.
But now it's bigger than ever, isn't it?
1979, I think it was.
Yeah, it was on the way out then, certainly, you know. And at the time...
Well, no, it wasn't, though. It was journalists said it was.
This is a guitarist special, in a way. Could you tell us, why did you choose your instruments?
Well, actually,
the first instrument I had was from Woolworths, which is like a clothing store that sold very cheap guitars. But now we use Fender Strats. Well, I use kind of Strats, Jackson Strats, you know. And Janick uses Strats.
Strats, yeah, just Strats. Fender Stratocasters.
But
Very old ones.
Why do you think you chose guitars, not drums or singing or?
Because I can't sing. I wanted to sing like Ian Gillan, and I couldn't, so I tried to play guitar instead, like Davy Murray.
Well, yeah, I tried to play like Janick after seeing him in Gillan. But I think, well, I heard Hendrix on the radio, and I heard this sound, and I wondered what it was, so I found out it was a guitar, and I decided to you know, pursue that. Instead, I mean, like drummers, I guess they bang things all the time, right, you know, and...
Head bang.
Yeah, well, yeah, bang cables,
really,
yeah. But I just think it's good. I think in the guitar you have a very good chance to express yourself, and it feels good to play, you know.
What was the most difficult part of playing in the beginning?
Your fingers hurt a lot. They still do, in fact. But yeah, just getting your fingers to stop hurting when you hit the F chord and hold that bar across. You know,
still can't do it after all these years.
But when I started, I got one of these little guitars, a bit like David, but I got one from a place called Bruce Moore's, like, and the strings are about this high off the fretboard, and to actually press, you know, to press them down, you need something like a G clamp to clamp them down. And you know, I tried to play it a few years ago, and I still can't play it. It was so hard to play; it was unbelievable, and it used to hurt your hands.
How about the most difficult part?
Yeah,
for
well,
you?
in fact, I thought once I'd learned bar chords, it was all over, because no pile driver from Status Quo, that was a very big influence for me. And so when I learnt to do that 12 bar and get the little finger going, I was quite happy actually, because there's a lot of stuff you could play, like rock and roll standards, like Johnny Be Good and Roll Over Beethoven, and they was all the same 12 bars but different keys. So I mean, it's very difficult, and I used to spend like 8 hours a day, and when I worked I used to rush home lunchtime and practice for an hour and then go back to work, and it's, you know, you just have to spend a lot of time, but even now, I mean, it still hurts. I have to lift weights now, you know, like.
What do you think of using the effects as a guitar player? Are they necessary, for example, for you?
We don't really use any.
No.
Synthesizers and stuff like that. His house was full of them, and then he just...
I think he's that kind of player, and the kind of music he was doing probably warranted that. And I've got nothing against effects, but I just like to hear the guitar player playing with what he's got and amplifying a guitar. You know, there's various things like a graphic or whatever you need to boost certain sounds, but...
Yeah, I've got a couple of effects that I use, a couple like a phaser or a flanger, sort of an echo, you know, but that's about it really. It goes pretty much straight into the amp, because sometimes you can use effects to create different moods, if you like, and maybe add a bit of colour or something, you know, here and there.
That's great.
Yeah, if it complements the music, you know, like in some Maiden songs, you know, you're more likely to hear a little bit of synth here and there, you know, and some acoustic stuff. And I mean, we've actually in the songs, you know, there's very like clean guitars, heavy guitars, synths. I mean, there's a bit that that's sort of like Janick plays like a cello sort of effect, right? But it's done on the you know, that bit of No Prayer for the Dying. There's sort of like a cello-y type of
that's just a
thing, you know.
Guitar with dampening the strings with your hands.
So you can make things work just by playing without effects as well, if you like.
How about, what do you think on stage? Do you concentrate on the playing, or do you just let your thoughts flow all over?
Yeah, I like to just not think about anything. Well, I mean, I think, but I don't think about what I'm going to be playing. Sometimes I have to look at this, you know, what song's next. But I think the beginning of the tour, you have to you're concentrating more, because you're playing new songs and you're on stage. Everything's new again. So you concentrate on playing, and after it takes a couple of weeks, you can forget about playing and you can just go out and really just have fun and just try and you sort of feel free to do what you like, you know.
The music with Iron Maiden, it's very intricate, and it's got to lock in. You know, the guitars have to lock in together, and there's a kind of I don't know, sort of classical type of thing about it. It's got to be tight, you know, between me and Dave. So we've got to kind of make sure that's right. But apart from that, it's like Dave, so we just have fun.
Yeah, because some of the melodies are quite complicated, really, if you listen to them and to play there. So sometimes you may be thinking ahead, like this bit's coming up now, and you kind of, there's some parts of the songs you have to concentrate on just because they're difficult, you know. But mainly you can just play away and try not to fall over, you know.
Yeah. Well, that happens anyhow.
How about the best and the worst moment of your career this far? Has something funny, for example, happened?
On this tour?
Yes,
this tour,
or your career.
Yeah.
Your career, Dave.
My career.
It's flashing before his very
eyes. Well, some of the fun. Well, actually, once, well, it probably wasn't the funniest moment, but we was on stage in America, and it was a terrible gig actually. It wasn't. The sound was terrible. So at the end, I just smashed my guitar up on stage, and I threw it out in the audience, and it hit this policeman on the head. Right,
good choice.
Well, it knocked him out. It knocked him out, so they carried him backstage, you know. And he was going to actually sue me, I think. He was thinking of suing me or something. And then our tour manager gave him a couple of $100 and we said sorry and everything.
Couple of hundred tickets.
You know, yeah. And what was really funny that his surname was Murray. He had the same surname, so there was something that probably was meant to be.
Intuition.
That I was meant to hit him on the head. So that was probably like one of the most sort of more disasters that happened, you know. But I had a good fun smashing the guitar up, you know.
How about you? The highlight of your career this far?
Yeah, I suppose playing with Maiden's a highlight. I'm really getting off on playing with the boys. It's great. I suppose disappointment was when Gillen split, when Ian had the throat problems, and when I fell over last week. I tripped over Dave's lead.
Can you tell us, what is the meaning of life? We've been asking everybody lately.
The meaning of life? God.
To start with a simple question like that.
If I knew that, I should write a book about it. Meaning of life, I think, is quite clearly 42.
We are now in London. What do you think of the rock scene in London, for example, this year? Is there anything particularly revolutionary going on, or is it always the same faces?
Well, it has been. I mean, it has been for a while actually, and that's why I've sort of really lost interest in what's going on in England a bit. I mean, there seems to be a lot of exciting stuff happening in Europe. I mean, like my solo band. I mean, obviously we used an Italian drummer, and now we're going out on the road with a German drummer, and there's a lot of musicians coming from Europe who are really talented, and I think that's very refreshing, you know, to kind of break the stranglehold that the British people thought they had on rock music, because I think it'll probably make it better for us, because it'll make, I think England, sometimes we suffer from being a bit like the English football team, you know, we think we're better than we really are.
Do you mean last night?
Yeah, it was embarrassing, wasn't it? I mean, I was embarrassed to be English. I couldn't believe it. It's the first football match I've watched in 4 years, and I don't think I'll watch another one. And yeah, exactly. Not only was it embarrassing, it was boring.
How about Scotland, Costa Rica?
I didn't see the game, so I don't know. I saw a couple of goals from the Brazilians and the West Germans and the Italians, and it's so different. They're playing football. I mean, I don't know what was going on last night, but it wasn't a game of football. It was very odd. But anyway, what were we talking about?
About European musicians coming to London and giving their influences.
And we somehow got on to football. Okay, yeah, England. I mean, I always think of England as like I think the real heyday of England was when we had those great bands of the early 70s. You know, Free, Bad Company, Cream, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple. Jesus, I mean, you know. And then after that, then we had punk, and even when we had punk, you know, we had the Boomtown Rats, and there was the Clash and the Stranglers, and those bands all went out. And then you had like the Def Leppards and Iron Maidens,
But since then, I don't know. Other people seem to have taken the ideas and and adapted them very well. And so now you've got bands like sort of Faith No More, and you've got bands like King's X and Soundgarden and Anthrax and people that are coming over with real attitude bands that are coming over and good musically as well. I mean, Anthrax are excellent musically, and coming over and yet you seem to have all these English kids getting like dressed up in all the glam gear and everything and trying to make out like there's something in Hollywood, which is awful. Because it's not, I mean, culturally, it's not what England's about at all. I mean, England's about, it's a bit dirty and, we drink our beer warm. And I think we're much better at, as it were, the Iron Maiden approach, which is like whatever the music is, the more earthy, basic approach to things. And I think probably the fact that other bands are coming in and doing very well will probably slap us around the head a bit, and maybe the rock scene will get a bit more interesting.
But if you could change one thing in rock business, what would it be?
Only one? If I could change one thing, what would it be? I know what I'd do. Actually, I think it would be quite good actually if they did this for everything. If they did it for everything, I think I think they should have a bullshit detector on all newspapers, televisions, and records. So like imposed by God. So every time somebody said something that was like not certainly from the heart, it just went bullshit like that.